Welcome to the Rare Plant Monitoring Program training videos. This training will be broken into numerous videos that walk volunteers through the process of preparing for a rare plant survey, conducting the survey, and submitting data. This first video will provide an overview of the program. The Rare Plant Monitoring Program was developed in 2013 to engage the Wisconsin botanical community in plant conservation. Volunteers are trained to search for known rare plant populations around the state and collect important data on these populations in a way that will inform conservation assessments and habitat or species management decisions. The program is open to the general public, not just professional botanists. However, no plant identification training is provided, so participants must have these skills prior to getting involved. Other than an ability to correctly identify plants in the field, few other tools are needed to participate. Survey times vary based on how far from a trailhead or parking area the rare plants are found and how big the population is, but data collection protocols can be adapted based on how much time the monitor has available. Much of the information in these videos can also be found in the complete program manual located on the Rare Plant Monitoring Program website. Either type Rare Plant Monitoring Program into your search engine or use the URL in the screen here. Once on the Rare Plant Monitoring Program website, click Forms and Guides under the Volunteer tab. On the Forms and Guides page, you will find a number of valuable resources to help you prepare for and conduct a rare plant survey and jog your memory on how things discussed in these training videos go. Wisconsin's first endangered and threatened species list was published in 1972, and the first plants were added 6 years later, in 1978. Currently, there are around 1,900 native plants in Wisconsin, and 322 of them are listed as endangered, threatened, or special concern. You can find the complete list of rare plants by searching Rare Plants on the DNR's homepage. Around 17% of our native flora is considered rare, which is on par with other states, but below global estimates of plant rarity. Because species that are listed as endangered or threatened receive legal protection and are priorities for conservation efforts by state, federal, and local groups, it's critical that we have up-to-date information on which species are most vulnerable and in need of our limited resources. But despite the need to monitor our rare plants, that is not possible without the help from the conservation community at large. Here's a map of all the rare plant populations known by the Wisconsin DNR. If you add up all the populations of the 322 endangered, threatened, and special concern plants, there are over 5,500 total. This is a huge number and much greater than one agency can monitor periodically. Now, not all 5,500 rare plant populations will be eligible for monitoring in the Rare Plant Monitoring Program. We prioritize rare plants on public land, that is, land owned by federal, state, or county agencies, a local municipality, or land that is owned by a private organization but open to the public, like land trust preserves. In Wisconsin, over 6.5 million acres, or 15% of the state, are publicly owned. If we only look at the rare plant populations known from these publicly accessible sites, there are still over 2,800, more than the DNR can monitor by itself. In order to make informed decisions about plant conservation, a larger group of committed people must be enlisted. Since there are so many rare plant populations known in Wisconsin, there is a risk that we may not be able to keep track of how all these plants are doing, and that some may disappear before we are able to save them. Even infrequent monitoring, every 20 to 30 years, is not enough to catch the signs of decline. To understand why monitoring rare plants is important, we first need to look at why they're rare in the first place. Plants are rare for a variety of reasons. Many plants are rare because large portions of their habitat have been destroyed or degraded. Prairie milkweed is found in black soil prairie, mainly in southeast Wisconsin, a habitat that was almost entirely converted to agriculture. Kittentails is a Midwest endemic found in dry prairies and oak savannas. Although Wisconsin has the highest concentrations of this species in the world, only a small fraction of oak savanna remains. Some sites are being restored through brush clearing and the reintroduction of prescribed fire, but others are degraded by the encroachment of invasive herbs and brush. Putty root orchid is a monotypic genus, meaning there is only one species known in the world. It's found in rich mesic forests, many of which have been lost to heavy logging or land conversion. Loss of putty root would represent a huge loss of evolutionary history, since there are no closely related species. The bright side here is that plants that are rare because their habitat has been lost may be found in habitat that was not destroyed but went unsurveyed, or habitat that has been restored. In fact, new populations of putty root orchid are found each year as botanists search new spots. Other plants are rare due to more recent threats. The federally threatened dune thistle is limited to dunes along the Great Lakes, but more recently a number of non-native insects have been found attacking its flowers and roots. These threats have been estimated to reduce seed viability by 50% and kill adult plants prematurely. Golden seal is found in rich forests in southern and western Wisconsin, but also prized for its medicinal properties. Poaching is a significant threat in Wisconsin and across its range. Calypso orchid is certainly one of the most striking native plants we have, but warming climate appears to be pushing it out of the state. On the opposite side of the beauty spectrum, little goblin moonwort grows only a few inches above the forest floor, sometimes not even making it through the leaf litter. Invasive earthworms, however, devour the leaf litter, and with it go little goblin moonwort populations. There were at least 90 populations in Wisconsin just 15 years ago. Recent estimates are fewer than 10. Dune thistle, golden seal, calypso orchid, little goblin moonwort, and others like them may be known from a number of sites, but due to recent threats they are declining at those sites or have disappeared entirely. Frequent monitoring is critical to understanding where these plants are in that trajectory and giving us an opportunity to act to save them before it's too late. Other plants are rare in Wisconsin because they are at the edge of their range here. A variety of factors like climate, soil, or dispersal ability have prevented these species from getting beyond the outer margins of the state. Northwestern sticky aster is more common across the northern tier of US states and Canada, but is found at only one site in Douglas County near the city of Superior. On the opposite side of the state, sycamore is found in a few floodplain forests from the Sugar River on the Illinois border to the lower Wisconsin River. South of Wisconsin, sycamore is commonly found in the lowlands from Illinois to the Gulf of Mexico. Although there are a number of other floodplains elsewhere in Wisconsin, sycamore hasn't become established there yet. Some species are disjunct from a distant core range. Meadow beauty is a member of a unique subset of the Wisconsin flora, the Atlantic coastal plain disjuncts. The core range of these species extends along the eastern seaboard, but satellite populations have become established in central Wisconsin, in the bed of the ancient glacial Lake Wisconsin. Since all of these species are at the edge of their range here in Wisconsin, they may be found more commonly in the correct part of the state, but will be absent from seemingly similar habitat occurring outside of those locations. There are some species that are rare now and have likely always been rare. These species are habitat specialists, and the habitat they require is rare. Northern monkshood is a federally threatened plant that is only found on cool, dripping cliffs in southwestern Wisconsin. These habitats are limited on the landscape, and so too are the occurrences of monkshood. Similarly, squashberry is found in one spot in Wisconsin, the Blue Hills in northern Rusk County. The cool air that emanates from the talus slopes there mimics boreal conditions further north, where squashberry is more common. As far as we know, squashberry has always been limited in Wisconsin to the unique geologic feature that creates the microclimate it requires. There is an urgency to plant conservation right now. We hear each day about how climate change is impacting our world, about how pollinator populations are crashing, and how new invasive species are being discovered. We need to act quickly but we can't waste any effort. The urgency of these issues highlights the importance of prioritizing our actions. Monitoring is part of a three-tier approach to conservation and helps answer the question, how is the species doing? It is the foundation, the trigger that starts the conservation process. If we notice a concerning trend, then we can do something about it. In those cases, the causes of the trend are investigated. This is the second tier of the conservation process and usually is undertaken by research organizations like universities. Once we figure out what's causing a species decline, we can try to address the problem, usually through hands-on management like invasive species removal, hand pollination, or physically protecting plants with cages. This is the third tier, and large agencies with access to field crews and equipment are often best suited for these tasks. Research and management can't happen, though, without monitoring. Monitoring provides data that are needed to articulate the argument for future action. Specific examples of dramatic decline or hard-fought recovery illustrate that action is needed to effectively stem the loss of biodiversity. If we don't notice a species dwindling, then we won't try to understand the cause or solve the problem. If we don't monitor them, the plants we care about can wink out before we realize there is a problem. In some cases, by the time we do check on a species, it has dwindled to such a small size or poor health that it's difficult to save. The universities can take care of the research to figure out what's causing a certain increase or decline. The DNR and other large agencies can take care of habitat management. The data collection is a group effort that everyone can help with. The primary objective of the Rare Plant Monitoring Program is to get more information on rare plants to support conservation decisions. In other words, to build up the foundational tier of the conservation pyramid. We need more people out in the field collecting data so rare plants don't wink out before we even realize there's a problem. Similarly, if our actions are working, we need to know so we can either continue doing these things elsewhere or focus our efforts on other species. There are, of course, a lot of people who are conducting surveys already on their own time and finding interesting and important things. So the second objective of the Rare Plant Monitoring Program is to capture those efforts and in some case focus them on species and populations with particular needs. If a botanist is heading out to visit a site, we would love to have them keep an eye out for a rare plant known there. If someone is looking for a new site to visit, we would be happy to point them towards a high-quality state natural area that supports a rare plant we haven't been able to check in on recently. In this sense, the Rare Plant Monitoring Program is a collaboration between the DNR and the plant conservation community in Wisconsin. If you care about rare plant conservation, this is one way you can help out. The Rare Plant Monitoring Program is currently the largest source of rare plant data in Wisconsin, generating more than 200 reports a year from all over the state. Here's all the places the rare plant monitors have surveyed since 2013. There are three possible outcomes for a rare plant survey. The first is that you search for a known rare plant and find it. This is the most likely outcome. The second outcome is that you search for a known rare plant population but do not find it. In both cases, you should complete a data collection sheet and submit the data. Negative data, when you search for something but do not find it, is an unfortunate but important part of the conservation story. It's just that not all stories have happy endings. In order to effectively make the case for protecting rare plants, we need to show that they are in fact in need of protection. If results from negative surveys are not submitted, we can't document the decline of these species. Further, the time and effort you put into the survey will be lost since the results are not put to good use. Negative data is important for documenting species condition, but it's also important for documenting habitat condition. If a population was not found during a survey, but the surrounding habitat was still high quality, it's possible that the species didn't appear this year for whatever reason, but may be found during a return visit another year. However, if the plants are not found and the habitat is significantly degraded, overrun with invasive species and threatened by erosion and trampling, then this population has likely been extirpated, and a follow-up survey may not be necessary. The third outcome of a rare plant survey is that you could search for one plant but find another. Or you could be out on a hike and found a rare plant population serendipitously. Whereas the previous two outcomes are updates to known rare plant populations, finding a new rare plant population is also possible. As you can see from this graph, finding new rare plants makes up a small but exciting portion of overall reports. Just as with updates, if you find a new rare plant population, you should fill out a data collection sheet and submit the data, even if this wasn't part of a survey assignment you were given. The same data collection protocols apply, and the same forms for data submission can be used. The results from a rare plant survey are used in a variety of ways. The results of each survey are entered into the Wisconsin DNR's Natural Heritage Inventory database, where they are plugged into all conservation decisions conducted, funded, or approved by the department. This database is used to ensure, for example, timber harvests, road construction projects, or pipeline maintenance did not harm endangered or threatened plants. The information is also used to conduct species status assessments and inform revisions of Wisconsin's endangered and threatened species list. Each year, the Rare Plant Monitoring Program picks a plant deserving special attention, a species of the year. No one is required to look for the target species, but all are encouraged to do so in order to build excitement and allow participants to become more familiar with that one plant. This also allows us a unique opportunity to conduct a status assessment for this species, since theoretically, a lot of surveys will be conducted and a clear picture on its status will be painted. In 2017, the species of the year was small white lady slipper, a state-threatened orchid. Volunteers revisited 23 known white lady slipper populations, documenting a roughly 33% decline in the species statewide. More concerning was that some populations, previously seen as highly viable, had declined dramatically. With this new information in hand, the status of white lady slipper was pushed from vulnerable to imperiled. It's likely, when the endangered and threatened species list is revised, white lady slipper will remain a threatened species. In some cases, the data collected by Rare Plant Monitoring Program volunteers sparks on-the-ground management. In 2014, 2 Rare Plant Monitoring Program monitors served a known population of the federally threatened and state endangered prairie white-fringed orchid. They found a tiny population of orchids languishing in a prairie threatened by invading brush and weeds. Once their data was submitted, DNR staff used the grim warnings of these monitors' report to initiate habitat restoration at the site. In the years since, the site has seen multiple brush clearing work parties and prescribed fires. While there's clearly more work that needs to be done before the orchid population is considered secure, the efforts of these rare plant monitors were vital in starting the conservation process. Without their efforts, it's likely this population would have winked out without anyone noticing. The Rare Plant Monitoring Program brings together members of the conservation community to inform conservation decisions through rare plant surveys. The data monitors collect, currently the largest source of rare plant data in Wisconsin, is plugged into a myriad of important conservation tools and is the foundation for the 3-tiered conservation approach. There are numerous reasons plants become rare and seemingly more stressors added each year. But by revisiting as many populations of these vulnerable species as possible, we can learn more about them and direct action to those most in need. This concludes the overview portion of the Rare Plant Monitoring Program training videos. Please continue watching the remaining videos to complete the training requirements.